N'esi ahụrụ gị n'anya, egoshighị ịhụnanya. Saying I love you does not demonstrate love. You're listening to Salt and Culture. This podcast is a key ingredient for tapping into inner understanding, inner wellness, and the craft of using the elements to create the life you want, to create culture itself. I am Chichi Mambo. Welcome to the 4th episode and the 2nd episode in our series, Your Name is Not Endurance. This series aims at helping women unlearn the toxic gender roles which require them to endure or to suffer for the approval of society, for the approval of men. Today's topic is the danger of purity culture. So, you guys must know by now, what's the date of today? Today is November 11th. Okay, great. So, this week, I don't know if it's the Taurus new moon coming in. I don't know if it's the planet in retrograde, whatever the flip you believe in. I don't know what happened this week, but I know that I was bombarded with a ton of content centered around purity culture and presented it in its most toxic, most vile form, right? Well, not most, but in a very toxic, vile form. So first off, the episode was the 5th episode of Backchat London, bombarded me with that. T.I. and his faux wokeness, feminism, extreme stupidity bombarded me. On my timeline, I saw a lot of crap as well. And so after being bombarded with all this jargon, I just had to do it. I just had to delve back into Your Name is Not Endurance series. I guess the universe has worked very hard to earn this one. So I would start with Backchat London. Backchat London in general is very toxic, right? I just find, and it's sad that there are a lot of young people there, right? Not just millennials, but, there are younger people on there, 20-year-olds, 19-year-olds. And I would like to hope that, the generation that's coming after us will be way more progressive, but perhaps it's just a casting issue as well, right? You're going to cast the people who will cause the most controversy. And I guess, extreme stupidity is awe-inspiring and, also causes that kind of, good television, right? No shade to anyone, of course. Everything is curated. Everything is curated, everything is put together, so no shade to anyone. But if you are a progressive person listening to it and their views on women and how they commodify women and the conversations around what a woman should do with her body, slut shaming women, calling women hoes and all this, and calling men hoes, and just like shaming people for their sexual preferences, for being sexually liberated, or glorifying people for being non-sexually liberated, for being conservative, or for, not having sex at all or whatnot, just controlling the way, especially women are supposed to, engage in society and with their bodies. But maybe that's not a really good example. Maybe I shouldn't delve into that because that's super generic. I would like to just, maybe let's focus on T.I. because it really hits the nail on the head. And I'm going to take it around the Igbo proverb that I came up with. And that I stated in the beginning as Nasi ahuru ginanya egoshigi ihonanya, right? Saying, when you say you love, it doesn't demonstrate love. So when men say they love women, does not demonstrate love. It's just saying that you love and probably even believing that you love. But in the grand scheme of things, what happened this week, after everything I was bombarded with, even on my timeline from what people have been discussing and saying, I am even more convinced that men do not like women, unbeknownst to them. And every day, every week, I am reminded of the fact that most men, not all men, there are a lot of wonderful men who were raised very well or have learned for themselves and understand for themselves that, of course, women are like men. Of course, women are human. Of course, women can have sexual partners. I mean, of course, women are allowed to engage with their bodies in the way they want to when they're hurting nobody. It's a no-brainer to them. Like, of course. That's not the case for most men. But I honestly like to think that we are raising a generation that doesn't think like that, because we do not want to birth the children that our daughters, or the men that our daughters cannot be with. We do not want to birth women that our sons cannot be with. And unfortunately, that's what the generation before us, and actually our generation, yes, millennials included, sadly but true, are dealing with a society where men like T.I. are birthing and raising women and men, right? But they are raising sons that they do not want their daughters to be with, and they're raising daughters that will basically grow up to fear, or that they don't want to be with men like them. They're birthing, in terms of as they birth daughters, they're birthing and raising daughters who are somewhat going to bear the brunt of their nemesis. Right? Because they're going to be marrying, and they're going to be, in relationships. And unfortunately, most of the men they're going to be available to their disposal are men who are just like their fathers. That's their father's nightmare. So let's get into T.I. Let's go into T.I., right? And what T.I. said. So this past week, T.I. was on a podcast with his wife, Tiny, and if you know the story of both of them, they're both sexually liberated. I don't know if I could say that, but T.I. is an adulterer. T.I. is extremely promiscuous. They come across like they have an open marriage, but they do not. And if they do, it is constantly, the terms of their marriage are constantly violated clearly by T.I., and we see this displayed publicly because they both come out. Tiny comes out, complains, cries, rants, rages about it, and he does the same in retaliation, and they continuously are in this cycle. They bring people to have, allegedly, to have threesomes over, and whatever they do, so far as they're harming no one, I really care not, but that's the nature of their marriage, right? He's a perpetual adulterer, allegedly, and she's a perpetual endurer of the pain. There are videos out there, so I don't know if I can say allegedly, because she's spoken about it, written about it, so that's fact. She is an endurer, and so this podcast is also created especially for women like Tiny. But where's my water? Let me sip on this. So, T.I. was on a podcast, and on this podcast with two ladies, you could hear him talking about his daughter when they ask about his daughter and how grown she is, going off to college, and he says he is not too worried about his daughter, going to college or whatnot, because he takes her to the doctor, the gynecologist, for regular annual virginity checks, okay? And by this, he means he takes his daughter to the gynecologist annually, religiously, to check that her hymen is unbroken and intact. And so he ensures her virginity, and as of now, as she's going off to college, she is a virgin. He said this publicly, and it really caused a lot of banter on the social media streets. Not too shocking to me, because I went to school, I went to secondary school with women who did that to their daughters. Well, I know one person, she's a friend of mine, and her mother did that to her, and it horrified me. And instead of going to the gynecologist, I think her mother checked it herself. I cannot imagine the horror of spreading your legs open unwillingly for your mother to check for the your hymen. And I have to say that the relationship she had with her mother was a horrible one. It was very little love, a lot of animosity. One could even say that perhaps her mother hated her. It was horrible. But I can imagine that that's what you would do to a daughter you don't respect and you don't love and you don't care for. Okay? Under the guise of protecting her virtue. Okay? So I'm sure T.I. thinks he's doing a service to his daughter. So his daughter was very upset and started liking tweets saying that her father is disgusting, liking tweets saying that they can't imagine that, how controlling he is of, his daughter's body, a grown woman, and all sorts of tweets against what her father said and did, and rightfully so. It's a hard thing for a daughter to publicly stand against her father, but clearly she unwillingly had to go through this. I'm going to go now to the just not going to be long because I have to be somewhere, but I just had to drop this. If not, I know I won't be able to handle it this week. This purity culture thing. It's incredibly toxic because clearly it just means that you don't see women as women because you're not out there checking for the virginity and the virtue and protecting the virtue of your sons. Most of your sons are out here getting raped by older women, sleeping and getting violated by older women, and having to accept that and wear that as a badge of honor, saying that, well, it did not hurt them. So, and they're men. So, oh, well, this older woman who's 30 slept with your 14-year-old son. This older woman who's 18 slept with your 14-year-old son. Because apparently T.I.'s son was bragging about having sex. I don't think he was even up to 15 years old. And T.I. didn't say a damn thing about it. Okay. And this was on reality television, allegedly. And that's quite shocking for someone who is highly protective of his daughter's virginity to the point where she's being taken to the gynecologist not to check that she's okay, that she doesn't have any menstrual problem, that she has, her HPV, vaccinations maybe, that, her body is functioning the way it should, that she has no problems, cervically or whatnot. None of that. Now I'll let you into something. I mean, you could say maybe I'm coming from a place of privilege. Perhaps I will acknowledge my privilege. My father and mother never ever gave me the birds and the bees talk about virginity. When I was told about it, I had first seen my period and my mother told me, well, now you're a woman. She took me to the bathroom. I'll never forget. It was funny because it was not straight to the point, but at least she tried. She said, you see that thing that guys and girls and women and men do on television? I was like, oh, sex? It's like, yeah. Clearly we watched TV and she knew that, listen, I can't shield my kids from this. At some point I'm sure they've watched something. And we had grown uncles and aunties all, in the house. So anyways, and they were in college. So clearly we've heard things. And so she said, yeah, well, if you do that, you're going to get pregnant and there are complications and things that come with that. And I need you to understand this. You're a woman now, so you have to make better decisions. You have to be careful, just your body is changed and these are the things that can happen. Well, that was the second time, because the first time it was in Cameroon. The second time I actually got my period quite late in life. I was already in secondary school in Ghana, in high school actually. So yeah, but at no point was I policed. I was told to be careful and whatnot, but at no point was I policed. At no point did my father say I could not have sex, actually. I remember my father saying, if you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend or whatever, boyfriend, not girlfriend. If you have a boyfriend, tell your mother, be responsible. They never, ever for once told me to protect my virginity or whatnot, but they told me to be careful. So I guess I'm grateful for that. The first person who ever took me to the gynecologist was my father, because I called him from school and I said, I have a yeast infection. My school nurse said, I have a yeast infection. I don't know what the hell this is. Dad, you need to come pick me up and we need to go sort this thing out, because they're giving me huge pills that cannot fit in my vagina. My poor daddy was horrified and said, you're so young. How do you have a yeast infection? I don't get it. And the whole trip in the car, he's like teaching me, you need to wipe from front to back. You need to do this. You need to do that. I can't believe I have to tell you these things. And I'm like, yeah, well, you know, my first yeast infection. What can I say? Poor man. He took me to the gyno. She did what she could, prescribed some, stuff to put in my vagina, and I was fine, weeks later. But yeah, my father never ever said, I think, I'm not going to go much into it, but I guess I'm fortunate that way, because it just means you respect your child first and foremost as a full human. You respect that your child, like your daughter, is a human being who has sexual urges and should be able to healthily indulge in those pleasures responsibly. You tell them, and you can teach them the value of sex, because there was someone in our timeline who said, well, look at Laura Harvey, Steve Harvey's daughter. Oh, she's walking around over there. Well, she's living her best life. Someone said, yeah, Hollywood is full of crap. I don't blame T.I. Look at what happened to Laura Harvey. I would definitely also tie my daughter up, and check her, because Hollywood, this cult nowadays is crap. And I said to myself, well, the only reason why you would do that is because you don't respect your child and you don't tell them to value themselves. At the end of the day, Laura Harvey is living her absolute best life. Now, we hope she's safe. That's the only thing. We just hope that she's engaging in a healthy sexual practice, if indeed she's having sex with these people. Because we don't even know. We just see the rumors, Hopefully she's not breaking homes and she's just being responsible. Because you can teach your daughter the value of sex in the same way you should teach your son the value of sex. Sex is sacred. Sex is beautiful. Sex is fun. Sex is pleasurable. Sex is any and everything you can imagine it to be. It is constructive and destructive. But one thing we know is sex will bring life. And life is a serious thing. So explain to them that who you lay with and who you bring into your womb, into your life, who you insert yourself into, who you penetrate is important, because it can make you, break you, build you, destroy you. It can pleasure you for seconds, or it can pleasure you for a lifetime after that. Teach your children to just value themselves and their bodies. That is the most important thing, because the person who values their body and themselves will never have sex with just anyone, will never go breaking homes and opening their legs to people. A man will not go breaking his home or breaking other people's homes and inserting every Jack and Jill if they respect themselves. A man will wrap it up, if he respects himself, because he doesn't want to have, disease himself. So all these things, you guys, I feel, are missing the important things. Purity culture should not be about boxing a woman up. It should not be about the act of sex itself and its destructive nature. Purity culture really should be about the significance and the power of who and how you open yourself. That's it. Who and how you open yourself as you penetrate or get penetrated. As you kiss, because all that is sexual. People just need to be aware. Awareness is the key. The important thing is awareness. So stop telling people that if they have sex with more than 10 people, or if they have sex 10 times with the same person, they're a whore or they're not a whore. That's ridiculous. That's just toxic. And to the men like T.I. and the men and the women also, because you guys, this series, again, it's not about dissing men, please. Feminism has nothing to do with belittling and dissing men. That is misogyny. It's not feminism. Feminism is about the equality of both genders. Parity, gender parity. It's about respect for humanity, which includes vaginal humans and phallic humans, men and women. It's for both of us. New culture. That's what Salt and Culture is about. New culture. Gender parity. Spirituality. Like a balance of everything from that gaze. If you boil everything down to spirit, you get the essence of everything. That's it. So when you're telling people that, oh, your body is sacred, you're not lying. But to say that your vagina is more sacred than your brain, that your vagina is more sacred than your breast, that your breast is more sacred than your feet, that your breast is more sacred than your fingers, than your hair, bull crap altogether. Than your eyesight, than your heart space, than your love, than your intelligence, it's crap. No part of your body or being is lesser or greater than the other. They are both sacred. Everything in your life, in your body, in your being, your flesh and spirit is sacred. Your flesh is your spirit manifest on earth. Okay? And so therefore, every single thing about you is sacred. Teach your children that. Don't succumb to benevolent sexism. When men say, oh, I will protect my daughter and I'm trying to protect my this, but what about your sons? Protecting purity is not in the hymen. It's not in your daughter's hymen. It's not in your daughter's hymen. Lack of sex does not determine purity. There are evil people out here who are virgins. There are very low vibrational people out here who are virgins. We all know that you don't want your children to be with. The hymen does not determine virginity, not even scientifically. It can be broken in many ways. And there are a lot of people who did not bleed upon getting disvirgined. I did not bleed upon getting disvirgined. A lot of women don't bleed upon getting disvirgined. They don't. Virginity is not in the hymen. Purity is not in the vagina. It's not in the penis. Virginity testing is cruel. It is one of the heights of cruelty. And so when you go around saying, I love my daughter and I love my son, ihunanya, I love. No. Show it by teaching your daughters and sons about their essence and their value, and that their purity is in their essence and not in their vagina, in their penis, or their sex, or lack thereof. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of Salt and Culture, and to the second episode in our series, Your Name Is Not Endurance. If you have not yet, please do follow us on all our platforms. We are now on iHeartRadio. Yay! So you can follow on iHeartRadio. I don't know how you like to listen, but however you like to listen, on Spotify, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Castbox, Podcast Addict. However you like to listen, we are available on all these platforms, Salt and Culture. And until next week, I have been Chichi Mambo. I love you all. Thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.